Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, holy angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
Thank you for joining me tonight on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I am your hostess. The music you heard at the beginning of the show is I Sense Your Presence. It's by Shem Shai, a world roots and reggae group that is originated out of Sedona, Arizona, and travel worldwide now, just going everywhere with their music, which is amazing, because I knew them way back when they were just putting out their first albums or CDs. And I wanted to say welcome to those that are joining us for the first time and those that are returning. I appreciate having you come back week after week. It's really great to see you here. For those that are coming in, I do focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. I created the Genesis Clearing Statement, which some of you have experienced on previous shows. And if you've missed any of that work with the Genesis Clearing Statement, you can go back and listen in our archives and catch that work there. I've authored 2 books titled Activating Compassion and Activating Compassion, the Workbook. And in addition, I have created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour that includes workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, and fundraising events. And I have finished up the tour for 2012, but I'm already working on creating what's going to be happening in 2013 with the tour. So if you'd like to follow what's available to register for on the Compassion Tour, you can go to www.jessieannnicholsgeorge.eventbrite.com. I believe that's kind of right at the bottom of the show description as well. And there's also an option in there that's called gifting the tour. So for those people that maybe you're unable to attend an event and you still want to support the work that I'm doing, help me get out to those fundraisers, things like that, then that option allows you to gift money in whatever amount you choose. So that can be $1, that can be $100, whatever you like. And also here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, I look at the different ways that compassion exists in our lives and how to remove our blocks, resistances, frustrations, and more. So some weeks I'm discussing different aspects of how compassion's in our life and how it affects our life and the different areas of compassion. And then some weeks I'm doing more exercises and practical implementations. A lot of times I have guests on the show, and we do have a guest coming on tonight, Maria Rickert Hong, and I will be highlighting different musical artists along the way over time. So some nights are just going to be call-in coaching nights where you can call in and get that live intuitive coaching and share what's happening in your life, and we'll help you work through things and breakthroughs. But remember, always sharing, whether you're asking questions to one of our guests or you're sharing what's happening, and we're working on that depending on the show, it helps other people because chances are somebody else out there has the same question that you have. So it's always really useful and helpful when you're asking those questions. Now, again, as I mentioned, I've got Maria Rickert Hong on as my guest, and we're going to be looking tonight at how to get through the holidays when you're dealing with nutritional and chronic health challenges. So you can call in on our live lines if you'd like, and the number to do that is 760-542-4345, and you just press 1 to get into my caller queue. And that way, if you have any questions for Maria or myself, that will get you into us. I'm also going to be watching there in chat. So I see we have some people just kind of working their way in right now. And as I'm watching in chat, I'll also be looking for your questions. So if you're not in a position to call in, you can just type it into the chat screen, and I'll pay attention there and catch your questions there as well. And just a reminder that if you enjoy the show, we certainly would like for you to tell your friends, your family, significant others, Facebook connections, anybody that you feel inspired to share it with. And they can always listen to it in the archives. So they'll just come to the same link that you did, and it'll be right there in the archives for them to listen to at their convenience. And the other area they can find shows is by going to my Activating Compassion Facebook page, and that is at facebook.com/activatingcompassion/notes. So it's in the notes file on there, and all of the archive shows are on there. Now, as I like to do every week, and for those of you that are just joining us for the first time, what I like to do at the beginning of the show here is I use a book that's called The 72 Names of God. It's by Yehuda Berg, and he has studied tremendously Kabbalah, and he's a major authority on Kabbalah. And what I like to do is I like to just kind of randomly open to a page in the book here and kind of get a little message for us for the night. I like to use this book a lot because he puts it in everyday terms. You know, his words, his messages are very relatable, and a lot of his work relates to the principles of compassion and everything. So what we're going to do is just kind of open up here, and I like to do this a lot of times too when I'm just kind of seeking some insight or a place that maybe give me some guidance to focus some energy. And, okay. So the message that we have coming through tonight from Yehuda is titled Heaven on Earth, or that's the name of God that we're drawing on tonight. And it says, it may be hard to believe, but chaos and, yes, even death are temporary distractions of this physical world, necessary for the game of life. Our true purpose is to have unending happiness and eternal existence. We can create heaven on earth. The concept of heaven on earth, according to Kabbalah, refers to both individual and global peace. This same principle holds true in regard to the concept of Messiah. There is a personal Messiah and a universal Messiah. But we must first achieve our own internal liberation and recovery through personal transformation. Namely, we must achieve a state of Messiah within ourselves. Only when individual transformation in the world reaches critical mass will universal peace, harmony, and a global Messiah materialize before our very eyes. So, as seen through the lens of Kabbalah, the global Messiah is not a savior, but rather a seal and a sign that enough individuals have transformed their lives and, in turn, our world. This is a constant and recurring theme in Kabbalah. Everything, including our destiny of heaven on earth, begins and ends with our own individual behavior. This name quickens the process on every level. Now, it's very interesting that this would come up, especially at a time when we're approaching all the ascension that's coming up, and when we're looking at different aspects of ourselves, like with having Maria on tonight. This is such an important thing to remember, that those transformations, they start with us. If we want to see those bigger global changes in the outer world, it's going to start with us as the individual, and then it's going to work outward. And the more of us that bring that in, and the more of us that open up and put that focus and bring out that inner Messiah, so to say, is how we're going to be able to manifest that universal peace and harmony. Now, the meditation that Yehuda gives here is you ignite the light of the Messiah within yourself, within others, and throughout the planet. The concept of heaven on earth becomes conceivable and achievable. So when you're doing this and you want to work with this meditation and you want to tap into that inner Messiah, what you want to do is to just picture a light that starts within yourself. And oftentimes I find that the heart chakra area is a really good area for that to start with. And then just let it keep expanding. And then look and visualize other people around you and see that heart light coming right out from within their heart spaces and their heart chakras. And then let that keep expanding until it goes all the way throughout the entire planet. And you just keep reaching it outward until it's just that beautiful, glowing, radiating light everywhere. And when we hold that focus, what we do is it taps into a divine energy, a divine presence. You know, whether you want to call that God or spirit or universal presence or Messiah or whatever the word is for you. And it just taps in and just helps us raise that vibration up so that we can achieve that peaceful state of existence. Now, the name that goes with this, or the pronunciation, is Yud Zayin Lamed. So Yud Zayin Lamed is how the name is actually pronounced, to draw on the heaven on earth influence. So, like I said, we're going to be moving into our show. We've got Maria on tonight, and I just want to go over a couple of things as we bring her in, because she is a certified holistic health coach, and I want to talk about a few things here before I bring her on. Health, particularly chronic, and by the way, I want to say hello, Romelia. I got a hi there, and everybody else that's joining in. It's really, really great to have you here tonight. But health, particularly chronic and autoimmune disorders, which is one of the specialties that Maria works on, is at times a really challenging piece of working with compassion. In the past, I've looked at how it relates to taking care of ourselves, or specifically that taking care of our health is a way to be compassionate with ourselves. So tonight, I wanted to take a different slant on it, and I am looking at a different approach in the sense that many people have a variety of health issues, and many of those issues we don't even see just by looking at somebody. You know, you would never know it if you just looked at them, that they would be dealing with different things, for example, like autoimmune disorders or ADHD or OCD or diabetes 2 or latex allergies or whatever it is. But many times, you know, we can't tell these things. So, for example, you might catch someone on a really good day and they're happy and they're smiling and they're really active, but for those that are have friends or family or see them on a daily basis, you know all the challenges that they deal with. And especially if you're a parent and you have a child that deals with these things, you know it. And you see it on the day-to-day basis that the way they look on that good day is not the way that they are all of the time. And many times when we see somebody, for example, that's overweight, or they're moving slowly, or maybe they seem to have a whole bunch of nervous energy, and our first reaction is to think that they are that way by choice, or that they're just being a nuisance or trying to annoy us in some way. And in reality, they're dealing with something that's really serious that they cannot control. And this is one of the big messages of compassion that I work with in my work, again, is looking to that bigger picture. There's always so much more than what we can see there. So whether, you know, they're being that way by choice or because they don't have control over things, it shouldn't change the way that we treat them as people. And I think that's a big thing to keep in mind. So these people, they still need to be loved, and it's still important to treat them well, even when they're in those challenging spaces that might be kind of annoying for us. And there's a saying that goes, how others treat you is their karma, and how you treat others is yours. So we want to keep that focus that just because somebody else maybe is not being totally nice to us, that shouldn't change the way that we operate with them. We should always be giving that love out. This is a big, big guideline for living a happier life in what I teach. And no matter how somebody treats you, if you consistently give out love, appreciation, gratitude, and kindness, you are going to be blessed in your life. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And especially now with the holidays, we need to start being more and more considerate, because so many people are dealing with allergies and food challenges and things like that, that it's important as just a general kind and caring gesture that we take the time to note maybe what's in different things. You know, if you're having guests over or you're putting things out, to maybe create some little notes that have the ingredients on it, and to pay attention to things like the utensils that we're using. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. So, for example, you know, a rubber spatula being used as opposed to silicone or wood could actually cost somebody their life in things, just because it's that intense for them. For example, latex allergies are that way, and that's a big growing concern, and when we don't always think about it, but then for example, you put some balloons up and you use a rubber spatula, and the next thing you know, you got somebody who isn't breathing. So many people also are allergic to things like nuts, and you could use a spoon to stir nuts and then take it and use it for something else, and that could create a reaction. So I think just raising our awareness during this holiday time when we have so much that's going on is going to be really important for us. And I know that there's a lot of people, too, that also have to watch, for example, their sugar levels. And so a lot of sugar substitutes are being used a lot in foods and to counteract that for people who are diabetic. And we have to keep in mind what's good for one person might not be good for another. And I know now when I provide things like for a bake sale or something like that that's going on, I'll actually create my own little labels, put all the ingredients on it, make sure I note on there no rubber utensils used. So people get really excited and happy about those things now, and it makes a nice little packaging, a nice little addition, and it really only takes like a couple of extra minutes of time to do that. And so while there's a lot of good areas and most people are very good and they're not going to come down on you for anything, there are still those people out there that are lawsuit happy, and we have to ask, it's not only just an unpleasant experience if somebody has a bad reaction to something, but, we run the risk of somebody being an unhappy camper and filing a suit. That's probably more likely to happen at a holiday party or something for an office than it is individuals. But it's just one of those things to be concerned about these days. And, my personal take on it is I believe that we're better off asking what's in something, taking responsibility for ourselves. And if you're dealing with health issues, then it's important to check on things. That people forget or may not have the time to do labels for everything. So if we're all kind of watching out for ourselves, then we're going to be able to have much better experiences with others, and we're going to be able to minimize the issues that we're having. Now, Maria, with the work that she does, it's going to be really great because she's going to be talking about the different things she does and where she focuses on things tonight. And it's really useful because I think where we are dealing with so many things, we're bombarded this time of year with extra food everywhere. We're bombarded with candy canes showing everywhere through the decorations, and lots more baked goods out there and bake sales going on. And, she's really working with people to be able to get them to a point where their bodies are not so resistant in some ways, or dealing with these things so that the body can actually heal from some of these challenges. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a short little music break here for a few minutes, and when we come back, I'm going to bring Maria on. So hang in there, stay with us. She's got a ton of information. She says she has a whole bunch of stuff going on right now to share with you, and she's got a very, very interesting background to her. So hang in there, stay with us. This song here is called One Divine, and it's by Shemshai.
And one is the way of forever. Forever is the way of one divine. All hearts in high. Shall learn to walk with the angels. We shall soar above the clouds from here to now. Gliding on the waves of this mystery, unfolds in the lotus of our hearts set free. We'll always be. True spirit resides in the center of love is Yahweh. I am that I am. I is more than I could have said. So rise to your highest perfection. This reflection is the will of one divine, universal mind. And we shall sing in tune with the angels, abiding in eternal harmony. We'll always be. gone out the way. All is in your hands, and all is more than I could ever say. The essence of all in the angels gone out the way. All is in your hands. The dark is blinded by the light of day. The way of one divine, universal mind. And we shall learn to walk with the angels, I say. We shall soar above the clouds from here to now. Gliding on the waves of this mystery, unfolds in the lotus of our hearts set free. We'll always be running with the rhythm of this living stream. We'll flow in the cycle of the endless dream of life revealing. Just spirit resides in the center of love is Yahweh. All is that I am, and all is more than I could ever say. The essence of all and the angels call out your name. I am that I am. The dark is blinded by the light of day. All is in your hands, and all is more than I could ever say. All is that I am. The dark is blinded by the light of day. For I am that I am. The I is more than I could ever say. And all is in your hands. The dark is blinded by the light of day. For I am that I am. The I is more than I could ever say. Yes, I am that I am, and I am more than I could ever say. And all is in your hands. The dark is blinded by the light of day. For all is that I am, and all is more than I could ever say.
All right. Welcome back. You're listening to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and that was Shimshai. One Divine is the name of the song on that. We have on our show tonight, I'm just getting ready to bring her on, Maria Rickert Hong. Maria is a certified holistic health counselor and is a board member for the nonprofit organization Epidemic Answers, which focuses on helping parents recover their children from chronic illnesses like autism, ADHD, SPD, allergies, asthma, acid reflux, chronic ear infections, OCD, lupus, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune disorders. And we're going to be looking at how to work with these challenges during the holiday season and how Maria works with these challenges. So, she's got a lot to share with us, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her on here. Hello, Maria.
Hi.
Welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you here, and I know it's so late your time, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be on so late and stay up and be with us.
You're welcome.
And I want to start, Maria, by having you share your background a little bit with our listeners, because I know you were involved in some very interesting things prior to becoming a certified holistic health counselor.
Right. Do you want to know, how I got into this or what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Kind of share a little bit about your background and then how you got into the work that you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. The reason I got into this was because of my sons, especially my older son. I have two boys. The older one is 7.5, and the younger one is 5.5. And the older one, ever since he was a little bitty baby, always had problems. He was projectile vomiting. He had really bad colic. He was inconsolable. He had ear infections. He had eye infections. He wouldn't eat. He was slowly, I wouldn't say losing weight, but his growth percentile was dropping down, and eventually he ended up losing weight at about 18 months of age. He didn't walk until he was 20 months of age, and then he would just cry all the time. And any kind of bright lights or loud sounds or funny feelings would just make him cry for hours on end, and he was just inconsolable. And I always wondered, was there some kind of link that, was the cause of all this? It was kind of odd that my child was having all these problems and nobody else that I knew of, their children didn't seem to be having these problems. And so, and the doctors weren't very much help either. They're just like, oh, he'll grow out of it, it's no problem. He also had very bad acid reflux. When he would eat, he would throw it up. It would take him an hour to eat just a little bit of food, and then he'd throw it all up, and this was almost every single meal. He would get sick all the time. He had hypotonia. He felt like a little Raggedy Ann doll. He was a very floppy baby. And it wasn't until he was 3 years old when he started preschool, and he was very verbal at home, but when he went to preschool, he wouldn't talk, and he would just sort of sit in a corner and suck his fingers and not say anything. And then one day it got really dark outside, and he freaked out. And I'm like, okay, something's going on here. So I brought him to the doctor, and, they can't really tell. And so she had me meet with a behaviorist, and she was actually very good. And she figured out that he had sensory processing disorder, which is, there's two kinds, and he was the sensory avoider kind. There are also the sensory seeker kinds, the kinds that like to crash into things and like loud noises and lots of, like a rock and roll party guy, basically. And then there are the kids who are sort of mixed in between. And so that was good. So we started him on therapy, and that really helped. And it was good, but it wasn't enough. And so that's when I started to explore diet. And I started to think about or just come across children with autism. And a lot of children with autism also have sensory processing disorder. And I figured, well, they're doing a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. Why don't I try that for my son? And it worked. It really helped. And the combination of the therapy and the food really helped make his sensory symptoms go away, which was great. But it didn't. There were all these other problems that he continued to have, like asthma. He developed a really bad case of asthma and almost went to the hospital for it. He was on the nebulizer and on prednisone, and he was on steroids and an inhaler, and I didn't want my child to live that way, and he was continuing not to grow well. He had very bad eczema. It was just, it's like, come on, there's got to be some reason for all these things happening to my child. And because of the stress of taking care of him, and then my second son, when he came along, it just really overwhelmed me. And I went through a really severe case, I feel, of adrenal fatigue. And a lot of this had to do with the fact that my son would wake up 5 or 6 times a night. And, he wasn't a small baby. He was a child coming in my room all the time, and he needed to come get me. And, I need my sleep. And I always say that sleep deprivation is a form of torture. And so I started working with my naturopath, and he figured out that I had heavy metal toxicity, which was one of the root causes of all these things that's going on. And so and it affects everything from your adrenals to your thyroid to your gut. And so I started looking further and further into this and going deeper into the diet thing. And we started looking at gut healing diets for myself because, I was having chronic yeast infections and thyroid problems and hormone problems. And it wasn't just adrenal fatigue. It was a whole lot of things. And so it was like, good grief, all these things. they're related somehow. And then my son's on top of it too. So,
and I think that this is a big thing for people to realize what you're explaining here, because this happens a lot where you can go to the doctor and they're sort of diagnosing, it's maybe not quite completely off, but you have this whole series of things. It's oftentimes not just one thing that's going on, and and it just keeps cascading into more and more things, and they are all kind of interrelated a lot of times in what we're dealing with. And I wanted to clarify now, when you got diagnosed with the heavy metal toxicity, was that while you were still pregnant?
No, I got diagnosed after both of my sons were born. So the first thing that I did once I found out that I was toxic is I tested them with a heavy metal hair test, and my older son was at the 97th percentile for total load, for total toxicity, and my younger at the 90th. I'm like, I do not know how they were not autistic. I mean, because it's like I really don't know what saved them, because they had everything else going on wrong for them. Yeah, and then for myself, I had shingles. I had a really bad case of poison ivy. Started getting ovarian cysts and uterine fibroids. And like you say, it's like you go to a doctor and you get maybe half a diagnosis, but they're too general and they don't really know how to look at you, or they're specialists and they just look at one part of you. They don't look at the whole of you together and how everything interrelates. And so I was fortunate enough to work with a great naturopath, and I still do. And I brought my son in there after he had a really bad asthma attack. And so he started taking out more things from the diet and really working on healing his gut. And that's when it really went off of me like a light bulb. It's like, oh, it's the toxicity and it's the gut dysbiosis, and it causes nutritional deficiencies. So it can cause, especially the toxicity can cause neurological problems, because I had very high levels of mercury in me and lead too, and those are both neurotoxins. And he had very high levels as well. And it can, like I said, it can affect everything and it can cause immune dysregulation, just from getting sick all the time, because your gut is affected too, and your gut is where most of your immune system is. So I started to just get further and further into the food and gut healing diets, and really made some really good progress with all of us doing that. So I eventually, I guess it was about 2 years ago, after I'd had my aha moment, and I'd been doing it for about a year, I went to a talk it was given by Beth Lambert, and she's the author of A Compromised Generation. And in that book, she talks about the perfect storm of why there is such an epidemic. It's not just of autism. It's autism, ADHD, allergies, asthma, sensory processing disorder, OCD, Lyme, autoimmune diseases. The thing is, most people don't realize all these things are connected. They have the same root causes. And I'm like, yes, this is me. This makes sense. So I went up to her after she gave her talk, and I said, I need to work for you. And I started blogging for them. You can go onto their website, which is www.epidemicanswers.org, and look at the blog. And I've written lots of blogs about my experiences in recovering my kids and myself. And eventually got promoted onto the board of directors, which is great. I run their social media, and I'm just about to take over their website too, which is great. And the really exciting news about all this is that Epidemic Answers is in process of making a documentary about recovering kids, because most people don't know that kids can be recovered. They just take the diagnosis and they sort of live with it, and they say, well, that's who I am, or that's who my child is. And most doctors don't know that kids can be recovered. They're like, it's hogwash, it's hooey, but they're not reading the literature or the research. They're really not doing their homework, because if they did, they would start to put these pieces together, like the rest of us did. And there's like a small and growing minority of us who have actually recovered our kids from autism, from sensory processing disorder, from asthma, from allergies, from autoimmune diseases, and diet plays a huge role in it. And that's where when I decided that I really wanted to help people with this, because I was trying to go over to my friend's house who had kids with these problems and just sort of give them a 2-hour spiel, and they're like, it's too much. And I figured, well, I found out about the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they teach you how to be a coach, sort of coach somebody through the process. And it's not something that you can do overnight. And so I just finished up with them back in September of this year, and it's been great. And I've really been having a great time helping people and seeing some amazing progress in the kids and in the adults. So that's where I am now. It's been a lot.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing, because a lot of what you're talking about, I went through this whole cascading set of issues several years ago myself, which led to lots and lots of surgery, and some of it I definitely believe I had to have done because things were just that gone for me. But it ended up leading to 6 surgeries done over 6.5 hours by 2 specialists. And it took me a year and a half just to even pinpoint into some of what was going on. A year and a half of switching doctors until I'd get somebody to listen to me. But what's interesting is that we're seeing so much show up in kids, and they're actually paying attention to it at that childhood stage now, because for many years things like autism and ADHD, they just kind of wrote them off, said, here's a drug, go away, leave us alone. And they didn't look at these things like toxic metal poisonings in the system. And a lot of this stuff, they would say, oh, it's genetic, there's nothing you can do about it. And then it would go on into adulthood, or adults would start surfacing with a bunch of these different same issues that you deal with children on. And then it's like, well, you're getting older, your body's breaking down, and it's like, well, how much are we going to accept this? To a certain extent, there's some of that, but then I know for myself, because I've been working with more of a raw food diet over the last few months, and it's made a huge difference for me, making some of those shifts and focusing on detoxifying things out of my body. And I think we get so wrapped up into, let me go get a nutrient or a vitamin or a pill, instead of trying to correct it with our diet.
Right. And I think that's what most people are sort of trained into doing by the pharmaceutical industry. They've just gotten so easy. It's just an easy way to do it. It's like, just take a pill. I don't want to worry. I don't want to reverse my type 2 diabetes. My own mother had type 2 diabetes, completely reversible with diet. She wouldn't do it. She would rather take pills. And I know plenty of people out there that are like that. It's not fun to actually go about and change your life and change the food. But I have a friend that I'm going to be interviewing on my own webinar in 2 weeks, and I went to high school with him, and turned out that he developed young onset Parkinson's, and we're 46 years old, and I'm thinking, that's too young to be getting this. But the awesome thing about it is that he recovered himself, or he's in remission without pharmaceuticals. He did it with diet, and he did it with exercise, and he did it with a positive mindset. I'm like, this is awesome. Doctors don't even know about this. His own doctors. And there's a great YouTube video if you Google or go on YouTube and just search for Terry, Terry Wahls, WAHLS, and you'll find a video of a woman. She's a doctor, and she had debilitating multiple sclerosis, and which is a horrible autoimmune disease, causes neurological damage, and she had been to the best clinics in the country, the Mayo Clinic, and they had given her everything that they could, and they basically said, resign yourself to living this kind of life. And somehow she found out about diet and started changing her diet. I believe she did a paleo diet. She has her own version of it, her own spin on it right now. but she's walking now and she's riding a bike, and it's with food. I mean, food is really that powerful. And so it's incredible. And doctors don't take nutrition in medical school, so they don't know about it. So they write it off. They figure they weren't taught it. It can't be that important. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. I saw something today that somebody had posted that I think it was another health coach, and they said one of their clients had a doctor who told them to drink diet soda every day. And I'm trying to remember exactly why. I think it was for weight loss or something. I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, that stuff turns into formaldehyde in your body and wood alcohol. I mean, if you want that, sure. I mean, if you want to be preserved and basically half dead before you're dead, sure, go ahead. But, you know, they just don't think it makes any kind of difference. So I like to think that I am.
Well, and it is. It's so true. I think gradually we're getting there with blending the medical and the holistic industry, but I think we still have a huge gap there as well.
Right.
And it's true. I mean, it's so much in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously for the body, it's much easier to focus on nutrition. I know I healed a lot of things that I've dealt with in the past simply by diet and nutrition. Mm-hmm. And it's not always pleasant. It's not always easy. Like when I was severely dealing with gluten intolerant, and I would literally put on like 5 pounds overnight or 7 pounds overnight because I had 2 pieces of pizza.
Wow.
And, you know, it was just my gut was that bad. And I was actually at the point I was ending up in the hospital because I couldn't breathe. Wow. And I didn't know what it was at that time, and I was working with a pulmonary specialist, and I kept doing my own research, and then eventually I stumbled onto, gluten intolerance stuff. And so I wiped gluten out of my diet, and all of a sudden I could start breathing again.
Yeah, amazing, right? One is that it'll clog up your gut and constipate you, which is not good. And the other is that it can cause Th1 skewing of your autoimmune system. And so anything that sort of looks like gluten, it'll start attacking, and it causes, you know, an autoimmune inflammatory effect in your body. And so, yeah, getting rid of it is a great idea.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting. I was getting inflammation and different things, and at that time, like, nobody was doing gluten-free stuff. At that time, I was having to create all my own recipes, and I finally went on that, and then all these things started clearing up, and the pulmonary specialist was like, what are you doing? Like,
I know.
How are you changing this? And I said, I went gluten-free. And, you know, here are some substitutes. I even brought him cookies in one day and said, here's my substitute one, see how good they taste. And he started putting a lot of his patients on a gluten-free diet after that.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody that listens.
Like,
that's great.
It just dumbfounded him that, you know, I could figure that out. And matter of fact, I took myself off of different medications along the way. I got myself off of thyroid medication and like that as well, working strictly with diet.
Right, because if you're gluten intolerant, a lot of times it affects your thyroid because it does cause that skewing, and it starts attacking your thyroid. And so that can cause a whole bunch of hormonal problems, a whole bunch of everything problems, getting sick all the time and everything. So, yeah, that's great that he listened. I would say that in my experience and in a lot of my what would I say, a lot of my cohort, a lot of the like-minded people, we have not had that experience. We've been condescended to and poo-pooed and, you know, just sort of written off like you're a whack job, and that's not true. And in fact, and this was another piece that I'm so excited about, yesterday there was a congressional hearing from a special committee formed at looking at the causes of autism and the autism epidemic, because it's 1 in 88 children now. And, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, it was 1 in 10,000. And the problem is that the National Institute of Health and the Center for Disease Control are spending all this money, and they're looking at a genetic cause. And if it's a genetic cause, you wouldn't have that kind of exponential growth. So what they have not done is they have not looked at any kind of environmental cause. And I was shocked and happily surprised when I watched the whole thing on C-SPAN yesterday. I was like, are you kidding me? They're actually asking these questions? The congressmen were saying, what about vaccines? What about mercury? What about dental amalgams? What about gut flora? I was floored because these are the kinds of things that, like I said, myself and my like-minded friends and my colleagues over at Epidemic Answers, those are the kinds of things that we look at. It's toxicity, and there are some people out there, like the Mount Sinai Children's Environmental Health Center. There's some great doctors out there that have written some great books about this kind of thing, but your regular pediatrician doesn't take the time to read all this stuff, and it's going to take a while for it to get into the mainstream. But I was so happy when I saw that yesterday because I'm like, it's finally getting out. I'm not going to be called a whack job for saying that there's toxicity involved, because the congressmen themselves have family members that have autism, and they're older and they've seen it, and it's like same thing. It's like there weren't this many kids with autism. If there were, then where are the adults that have it? It's like I think Mark Blacksoll calls it the missing horde of adults, that there would be hundreds of thousands of them these days if the rate were really the same, and if we're really just getting that much better at diagnosing it.
And this is a huge shift in numbers. I mean, when we're talking, and at your blog, which I typed into our chat, it's Maria Rickert, and that's RICKERT.com. And just click on her blog, and it mentions this, and it's got this very information that she's talking about, which is, why it jumped from 1 in 10,000 to its current level of 1 in 88, which is what she's got on here. So these are absolutely huge things, because, again, before a lot of times doctors were just saying this is genetic, there's nothing you can do, or we can try this med, and I think doctors are overwhelmed today. I mean, it's like a lot of things in society. Everything is moving so fast, and there's so much more information coming in at this faster rate that we need groups like what you're involved in, Epidemic Answers and things like this, to handle these pieces, because it's more than what, it used to be your general practitioner could just look at everything and, they knew everything and they could just handle everything. And it's not like that today. Right. And the GMO influences coming into food, I mean, I'm so glad to see that we're getting more and more proactive about it, because I'm sure that that's got to be playing in right in there with the heavy metal toxicities.
It does, because it can, especially corn, if it's genetically modified corn, it's called BT corn, it actually punctures holes in your intestines, and it can cause leaky gut. And when you have leaky gut, all those toxins and waste products that should be pooped out are not pooped out. They actually recirculate in your body, and that causes autoimmune reactions. And so if you know anything about Jeffrey Smith and the Institute for Responsible Technology, he's got a great video that just film that just came out a couple months ago. It's called Genetic Roulette, and he talks about it. He's got doctors in there that will say, at the very least, they just took their patients off of GMO foods, and a lot of them got better, especially like the autoimmune kind of conditions. And if I don't know if there have been any studies, but I want to say he does have a book of the same title, and I believe he's got a whole lot of studies that are in there that prove his points. So that would be a really good reference for you to look up. You can find it on Amazon, I'm sure, or just go to their website, which is great. And where I live here in Connecticut, last year, we were almost the first state to actually pass labeling for GMOs, and everybody was for it. My friend Tara Cook-Littman and Glenn Colello, he's over at Catch a Healthy Habit. It's a raw food restaurant over in Fairfield, Connecticut. Great place if you ever come over here. And they were very much, rallying people trying to get GMOs labeled, and they had actually convinced most of the state representatives to vote for labeling. but there was some kind of 11th hour deal, backroom deal with the governor. We don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it was off the table. And that's how things work. It's politics, it's money, and, it's probably lawsuits or something from Monsanto. I don't really know, but I guess only the governor and whoever he met with truly know. But, yeah, it almost passed in California, too. Very close, very close.
California is majorly protesting. They've got some very activist-based people working on trying to make that happen and still fighting the GMO things. And they actually started making headway in the last couple of days. So it's promising. And we're behind in some ways because, there's a lot of other countries out there that haven't labeled.
I know.
And they're already doing these, and they're seeing the differences.
Right. Practically every country in the world except for us, and that's just because, I hate to say it, but our politicians are so in bed with big industry as far as getting payoffs, and special interest groups, run this country, really. And it's a real shame. Yeah. It's sad. And so,
their whole show for me. And I think that starts to cross over into some of the stuff I'll eventually probably get into with the Ascension work that's coming later this month. I'll have a whole show because my show happens to fall right on the night of the Ascension and the winter solstice and all of that.
Right. We'll see how that goes.
Now, I know you kind of set the rest of your background in the background, but Maria actually has some interesting background where she studied in business and you studied in geography and in some of these areas. Does that background in geography, do you find that helping you a lot with your nutrition area that you're in now, as in understanding more of how what happens with the earth is affecting our food sources?
I would say that the education does not affect it, but I think just overall as a person, I've always sort of had that awareness. I was kind of a flower child growing up, very much a kid who was sort of left alone to play with my brother and sister in the backyard, and for all day, basically, we were told to stay outside, and so we did. And so I guess I was just a little more in tune with everything. And I like the reason why I got the geography degree. I had originally gone to LSU to get a degree in petroleum engineering because my mom had said if she was going to help me pay for school, then I was going to get a petroleum engineering degree. And I was like, okay, let me do that. And then I, took the classes for a few years. I'm like, this is boring. It's just a bunch of equations. It just doesn't make any sense or have any reason or meaning or soul to it. And it felt very cold to me, and so that's why I studied geography. It's just interesting to learn about people and places and how your environment affects you, whether you grow up in the mountains or if you're by the river or if you're by the ocean. It affects your whole industry and your economics and your food and your lifestyle. It affects a whole lot of things. So it was just more of sort of an interesting kind of thing. But I will say that at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, they do teach us about bioindividuality, which is that everybody's different. So you can take the same diet and give it to 10 different people, and they're, probably going to have different reactions to it just because they're different. And that's got a lot to do with epigenetics, too, is that, you're born with whatever set of genes that you're born with, and then depending on what sort of environmental exposures that you're exposed to, whether it's toxins or foods or germs or antibiotics, those kinds of things can trigger those genes on or off. And so what we're seeing now is that playing out. So genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. So, yeah, if you look at it from that perspective, just from a sort of very high level perspective, yeah, I could say that they were sort of tied together.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be an interesting thing because I think some of this cross-cultural studies are going to be a big thing that are coming up and realizing, especially as we're looking on this global level nutritionally, that, why are some areas of the world having problems with certain things and not other things. But you deal in this area where you were just mentioning this individuality, and I think this is a great thing. I'm so glad you brought that up because I saw that on your website. And I think this is something we really have to look at with people when we're trying to help them heal, whether it is traditional medicine or whatever. But I feel like people have gone to a nutritionist, for example. Let's say the doctor says, okay, I'm going to have you work with a nutritionist here at the hospital to take care of things with your diet. But it seems like a lot of times they're very generalized, and it's like it's almost like calling into a call center today, and they've got their script.
They're phoning it in
off of their script because you'll never get to your answer.
Yeah, exactly. And the Institute for Integrative Nutrition holds annual conferences, and usually in New York, and they're starting to spread out into other cities like LA and Miami, and they're having one in Mexico City, I think, London. And so they had Joy Bauer at the one in New York City in October. And whether you were raw, vegan, GAPS diet, Weston A. Price, whatever, you were flabbergasted that IIN actually brought Joy Bauer. She's the nutritionist that's on, I believe, on The View. The things that she was talking about, like, really? I mean, no discussion of whole foods in there at all. And my guess is when you went to the hospital nutritionist, it was the same sort of thing. They're like, okay, this many calories, this many fat grams, make sure it's low fat. Don't mind that it's full of sugar or artificial sweeteners. They don't even think about those kinds of things. And it was really kind of shocking to me that, like I said, that they brought Joy Bauer on to talk because it just sort of flew in the face of everything that, whatever diet you tend to believe in and practice, didn't agree with any of us. So, and that's the case that most people go with. Most people, when they do see a nutritionist, you're right, that's kind of the service that they get, and they don't look at the whole body and systems and how things function, and they just don't, which is sad. It
is, and I want to bring up that this is one of the things that when you're working with people, or at least I noticed as far as when you're looking at setting up a program for somebody, that you look at these different facets, and this is the approach that you take, is this very individualized approach with people so that you can really help get them on track to what's going to work for them. And in addition, if I remember right, reading right, you had something about bringing in the emotional factors, emotional, mental states as well, and how that plays into what we need on a dietary level or nutritional level, or how that's affecting the diseases that are coming up in our body.
Right, spiritual as well. Yeah, absolutely. Your work life, your stress life, your home life, your family life, it all plays in. And I guarantee you, if you go to a nutritionist, they're not going to look at that thing. And that's what I did like really about the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, is that they look at the whole person, because they call it primary food, those things that you were talking about, like the spiritual life and the mental life and the emotional life, those kinds of things. And they can really play a big part in the rest of your health. And if that's out of whack, then it's like missing spokes on a tire. It's just not going to run right. It's just not going to work. And so food itself, or the diet or whatever, is actually secondary to all those other things, and that just makes so much sense to me.
Well, and it does, and I think this time of year, because I do want to kind of bring this in, where, again, we have this food everywhere. It's so full of sweets and comfort foods and more of the so-called unhealthy foods. It's just right there in our faces everywhere we go. I mean, not only in stores, but we have social events going on, and we have office parties going on. And I mean, do you have some suggestions for people in working with this? Because a lot of people are they get very high stress and tension. They're busy, they're worn out, they're tired, so they're reaching for those fast food things. Yeah. They're out at the shopping mall, so they stop at the local restaurant. And and get something there. They're looking for the comfort types of foods because the weather's turning colder. And then you have the whole set of people that are emotional because they don't know what's going to happen in their relationship. They don't know what's going on. What do they do with things? What do you have to suggest with that? I have a few suggestions I put on my blog, but
okay. Oh, I didn't take a look at it. I know it's hard when you're busy because the key really to a lot of this is planning, and if you're busy, they sort of don't go hand in hand. So I would say if you're just starting out, just get through the holiday season. Don't worry about it so much, and try to swing back around next holiday season when you're because it takes a long time to build these kind of habits into you. I hate to say that, but it really is. I mean, that's why I do coaching. It's a habit, and it takes a lot of planning and a lot of preparation, and it just depends on how motivated you are to get your health back or your kids' health back. And it helps if you could, say, like if you're going to a potluck, you could bring your own food, which is a great thing to do. You know what's in it. You made it. Or at least buy something that you know what the ingredients are and bring that. If you can't do that, then you could always, eat beforehand and not worry so much about what's actually going on there. I actually find it easier. I know it's not so social because when you're social, you want to have fun, and part of that is actually enjoying food or drink or whatever. But it's actually easier to eat, what's good for you before you go to an event like that because you can control it and just plan on not eating when you go to those parties. I know that doesn't sound like much fun. I'm sorry. It's not very social, I guess.
Well, and
what were your suggestions?
I think a couple of things, too, that there's more and more, for example, raw food restaurants and salad places coming up and areas that have healthy options on the menus or, like I said, the raw and the vegan restaurants and things like that. If you just look them up in your area, they're most places are having those now.
Right.
Another aspect is it's very easy to drop some nice organic leafy greens on a plate, toss a couple of nuts on, slice up an apple and drop it on the plate. I think that's part of it. I think some of my suggestions are focus on the interactions when you're going places and not the food so much. Take that opportunity to really get to know people on a more social level. And when you focus on the interactions and enjoying the environment more, you'll be less focused on the food. If you are going to eat food there, some of the things that I suggest is it's a little bit about moderation too, because you don't want to throw yourself into that deprivation space mentally, emotionally, spiritually either.
Yeah,
so if you kind of go and you get a plate of food and you just put one or maybe two of each thing. So like when you're going to a lot of these parties, usually they have a huge variety of food. So if you just put like one of each thing, pretty soon you've got a pretty full plate. And then if you take the plate and walk away from the food and go find somebody to talk to, the more you're talking, the slower you're going to eat and the less food you're going to be putting in your system.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you end up creating moderation for yourself in there.
Right.
Maria, I've got a caller on the line here, and I'd like to bring them on because I'm feeling like they probably got some questions here for you. Okay? And I'm going to 703 area code. You're live on the air.
Hello.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, this is Daniel Michael, and thank you for having me on.
Thanks you did earlier today. If anybody missed that, go back and listen to it in the archives. Daniel was doing a little jam session here today on the air, and it was just awesome to listen to. It was great to just chill out and listen to the music.
It sounded to me surprisingly well in the archives. You never know what it's going to sound like, playing into the, just a little mic, and I actually thought it was okay. I wasn't embarrassed by it. And one thing I wanted to comment on with your guest this evening is that, well, first of all, it sounds like she'd be a great designated driver girlfriend who would be able to. I'd be the guy just doing whatever, and hey, if you want to go out, then yeah, you can drive. You're not going to be partaking. I'm playing. I'm kind of playing. And but one aspect of food I wanted to mention, because I actually work in the food business myself in my part-time job, and I wanted to discuss something she was touching on, and that was the idea of how some things are unnatural to some and not unnatural to others. And so the idea of actually sticking to something long term, because she mentioned things taking a long time. And they do. They say it takes like 30 plus days to make a habit, or to make a good habit. And
right.
I'm curious to ask her, and as well maybe discuss a few things and then get off the line. But I'm curious if there's things that she could offer to help, meaning like help, little clues, little hints, little things, little, tips to help people see things differently, meaning little tips to help people see new behavior differently, if you know what I mean. Like, okay, I'm changing my diet. How do I make that seem appealing? Because I'm used to like fat, grease, and cheese. So how do you make, something different, a change of mindset?
Appealing than chicken?
For some people, it's not just good enough to say change. They want to see, okay, how can it be appealing to them, if you know what I mean. I hope I'm clear on that.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, your taste buds change, I will say, and if you eliminate a food for a certain period of time, you'll actually find you don't crave it as much anymore. So that's one part of it. Another part is just going slowly. That helps. And what I do is actually help clients work things in. So I crowd things out first by adding things in. So I'll have my clients eat more vegetables, because those are healthy all the way around, right? And so just by doing that, you're getting more nutrition in you, and a lot of times a lot of people are zinc deficient, and a zinc deficiency can actually affect your taste of sense and smell. And there are a lot of minerals that are in vegetables, including zinc, and they're also in bone broths and liver and things like that too, and eggs. But you'll find that your taste will change. And so I would just say sort of go slowly, work things in, and you'd be surprised. It actually becomes more appealing, and your body starts to feel so much better that you really kind of crave it. And you're like, I just feel good when I do that. And you start to listen to your body, and that's the main thing that you do.
Right. I have to agree with that, Maria, because when I went to basically a raw food diet just a few months ago, and over the course of about a month and a half period of time, I lost 20 pounds.
Wow.
So, Daniel, I was like 20 pounds heavier only a couple of months before you met me.
I don't believe it.
And
no, I believe it.
And I had, for the first time in my life, hit a point where I was not craving sweets. Like I could literally and stand in the whole bakery section, stare at everything, stand in a candy shop, and literally not have a craving for any of it.
Isn't
and I've
it awesome?
never in my life.
Yeah. I mean, sugar's like the number one enemy out there, I think, because it's highly inflammatory, it feeds cancer, and then it feeds all those pathogenic bacteria and yeast and parasites in your gut. And so getting rid of that is just like the number one thing that you can do for your health. And so you did it with a raw foods diet. I did it with gut healing diets, basically eliminating grain, sugars, and starches, and adding in a whole lot more fat, which is crazy, right? Because we're told not to eat fat. Fat is bad for you. But if you really start to pay attention, there's a great foundation out there called the Weston A. Price Foundation, and they're great at debunking a lot of these myths, like eating low-fat food. Eat it the way nature made it, I would say. It's a whole food. If it's a whole-fat, whole-fat cheese or whole-fat yogurt, or I would never now, I used to, but I would never now eat anything that's low-fat or non-fat, because what they do is they put in all sorts of thickeners and sugar in there and just nasty chemicals in there that you really don't want to be eating. And then the process that they use to actually separate the fats is not a good process either. And so, like I said, the Weston A. Price Foundation website is great for looking at soy. Why soy is bad for you. They have a great article called The Ploy of Soy. They've got another one about the cholesterol myth, why cholesterol is actually good for you, unlike what we've been told. Why saturated fat is actually good for you. That's a great place to take a look and really change your mind. It's like, who's been controlling what we've been told to eat? It's the food industry. The food industry has been controlling it, and we started getting away from saturated fat. Like, I know this is probably going to gross you out, Jesse, but lard, people used to eat lard, and it's actually very good for you.
Yeah.
Pig fat, right? Whole fat. It's a whole food. It was really because the agricultural and industry had made a trans fat, basically, like Crisco, and they wanted to use it as a substitute. So they started coming up with studies that would show that, saturated fat is bad for you. Well, go read on the Weston A. Price Foundation website, and they'll educate you. It's like very, very well done. And I'm not sure if you know who Weston A. Price is, but he was a dentist back in the 1930s, and he traveled around the world, and he visited indigenous peoples all around the world, everywhere from Switzerland to like very high Alps places where they got very little access to the outside world, to South America and over in Indonesia, in the Polynesia and places like that. And he noticed that if they were eating whatever their indigenous diet was, they had these beautiful broad jaws and beautiful teeth, no problems, no heart disease, no diabetes, nothing like that. Once Western food started to be introduced into their diets, the next generation, of children had smaller jaws, teeth that were crooked. All of a sudden, the adults started getting heart disease and cancer and all sorts of, the Western-type diseases that we see these days. And it's fascinating. And he took pictures of it, too. And you can see it's like, that's what a healthy person looks like. You don't see that much anymore these days.
One generation later. And the interesting thing about that is I was having this conversation with my brother. We grew up, my parents were from the 50s generation. Mm-hmm. And the 50s generation was the generation that believed completely and wholly without questioning anything industry or government tells you. So if food is in a can, then it must be good for you because, well, gosh, government put it or industry put it in a can.
Right.
So as soon as they see it in something, they trust it.
Right.
I'm serious. I remember my mom, well, hopefully she's not listening right now, but I remember, that was just their mentality of, if it's been put into a can or in a package, then it's to be trusted because it's been secured and it's safe and, it's probably fighting terrorism, at some point. Forgive me, but the thing is that it's once it's processed and put into a package, it seems to be safe to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that think that way. Like, the impurities have been taken out of it. Look at this. That's produce just in the open air. You can't trust that.
Right. They don't understand that impurities have been put into it, even worse impurities from BPA that leaches from the cans or the plasticizers that leak from the plastics or, the antibiotics that are put into the meat. Those are not good things that you want into your diet. Yeah.
So many things, or just, or if you want to even take the conversation into, genetic modification, then you get into that. Monsanto. Right. You're like, well, their agricultural companies know what they're talking about. Monsanto is not an agricultural company. It's a chemical company. They don't make food. They make chemicals.
Right.
And then they started genetically modifying seeds to be resistant to their chemicals so that they could sell both.
Right, I know.
The seeds and the chemicals. I'm not going to drag you into that direction exactly tonight. Forgive me. But I think we're on the same page, I guess.
No, we are.
And I think it's just, keeping to naturalness. And I'm sorry if I dragged you off topic. I'm not exactly sure if I did or not.
Whatever your topic is.
Well, naturalness, I guess, was part of the topic. So
right.
Return to naturalness is always good, and I think it is good, and I think that people are doing that. But I think I'm going to get off of the line here and let Jessie continue her show, as she is, our highest rated host, and she's an amazing. I'm so glad to have her on the the network. And
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, and I'm just going to end it with, again, a return to naturalness, a return to natural things, a return to things, and trust in what, grows out of the ground versus in the old, box at the store.
Exactly.
Times. Not always, but sometimes. Read that box.
Yeah.
Not everything in the box is, I think. I'm not that much of a purist. But
I kind of am.
Well, I also say that I believe in truth in labeling laws. So
Right.
I believe in laws of saying, okay, well, make sure that you just let people know, okay, this is, what's in there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm going to get offline here, and thank you both, and I'll let you all continue without me.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. And thank you, Jessie. Thank you for listening earlier.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So, Maria, and I think these are all really good points with people, and I'm glad you brought up the aspect of fats, because there's actually a doctor in the Santa Barbara, California area that started out working with the specialty of endocrinology and specifically diabetic patients, and then it's spread from there, and that's Dr. Diane Feinstein. And she's written very much about keeping those healthy fats in your diet, keeping the whole foods and staying away from a lot of the low fat things. And I think if we can look at the organic things too, it's such a big difference. Not only, people think, well, I'm spending more money on this, or they get concerned about that, but at the same time, and my boyfriend has been learning about this, that the organic things actually hold up much longer. They have a longer shelf life a lot of times than your standard things. So it's really worth it to have that. And I know that some of the stuff I looked at, there used to be a rule of thumb, it shouldn't have more than about 4 or 5 ingredients in it.
Right.
And they should be unprocessed types of things. When you start seeing all these funky things listed in there, that's probably not what you're wanting to put in your body. If you don't recognize it, if you can't pronounce it, it may not be what you want to ingest.
Well, there's a doctor over here at Yale, Dr. David Katz, and he's got this great program called Food Detectives, and he actually goes, there are materials that you can go onto his website, download them for children. I mean, my 7-year-old can take a look at a label and he can tell you whether it's, which one's healthier for you or not, which I think is great because most people just don't know how to read a label, what to look for, what to avoid, and that's a great program to take a look at.
That's really great. And mention that program again one more time.
It's it's called Nutrition Detectives. It's Dr. David Katz, Katz, and he's over at Yale University. And
it's Nutrition Detectives. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just getting that typed in to our chat here for the people there as well. Sometimes it helps to type it in, and then people can kind of see it and make that connection there. Now, one of the things I notice, and on your website too, and I keep coming back to that, And we have kind of talked about some ways to help people through. And I think the important thing is you don't necessarily just want to crash diet something. So when you're in the holiday seasons like this, if you can do the moderation, if you can start to learn some of the substitutes that you need to make on things. And I noticed on Maria's blog, she alternates some things. If you haven't had a chance, or if you can take the time to look through her blog a little bit, she has some great articles on here, great information. She's also throwing some really great recipes on here. A recent one, for example, that she put on here is egg-free banana muffins. That's one that I saw in here. She's got an easy butternut squash soup that's on here, and the butternut squash soup is vegan and vegetarian and gluten-free and GAPS FCD and dairy-free and diabetic and paleo. So, that just kind of covers the whole spectrum there. So I really encourage our listeners to go out and take a look at that, because the pictures just look amazing. I want to have that on there.
And I try to put easy recipes on there because I know people are busy. I know they just don't have time to cook. So make it easy as possible. And I always say make big batches of things. Make 2 to 3 times what the recipe calls for. And you can freeze, I tell you on there whether it's freezable or not. Basically, if it's a grain, it's freezable. If it's a legume, it's not. But so anything that's with nuts or broth or whatever, that's perfectly freezable. And so do that and make big batches of things and make it simple. It doesn't have to be a fancy French restaurant at your house every night. Just simple greens, just saute some greens, add in a little bit of garlic, with some fat. I don't recommend vegetable oils at all. They're highly inflammatory, and you can go over to the Weston A. Price Foundation and look more there. I think I've also got some information on my website. Actually, if you sign up for my newsletter, on my website there's a little sign-up box, and if you do sign up for the newsletter, then you get a report about 12 ways to reduce inflammation, and that's a key component of chronic diseases these days. And so one of the things that I list in that report that you get is actually not using vegetable oils. People don't know how bad vegetable oils are for them, not to mention that they're genetically modified usually, but it's just that the way that it has been extracted, it's been put under high heat and usually chemical solvents in there, and there are traces of them in there, especially in soy. They use hexane in there. And it's just because of the chemical structure of the bonds of the fat, it breaks so easily and it's so fragile that it automatically creates inflammation. It's not meant to withstand a high heat. And so if you do use a vegetable oil, let's say you put you put it on your salad dressing, flaxseed oil or olive oil, that's fine, as long as it's, especially if it's like a flaxseed oil or something, it needs to be refrigerated because those are very fragile fats and oils. And you can go to the refrigerated section at Whole Foods and you can find them there, and those are the good kinds. And you want to keep them cold. You never, ever, ever want to cook with those things. There's a great book, if you really want to get into it. It's called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill by Udo Erasmus. And he actually he takes you through this process. It's a biochemical process of what happens. And so he says cook with saturated fats, which is the traditional way of cooking. And there's a really great book out there. It's a cookbook called Nourishing Traditions. It's by Sally Fallon, who's now the director of the Weston A. Price Foundation. And it's just about getting back to traditional foods. I mean, before refrigeration was invented, what did people eat?
Right.
They ate a lot of fermented foods, and those were actually good because they have good bacteria in there for your gut. I mean,
and you've got a huge thing, and I know I've been working with fermented foods. Like even when I have, there's a bread I get from my health food store that's a sunflower bread. It only has 4 ingredients in it, and it has a organic, natural sourdough culture in it, which is part of that. And that's been one way I've been able to have bread again which has
right.
been fantastic.
I was about to say, I took a fermentation class. I've taken a lot of cooking classes at the Natural Gourmet Institute. It's in New York City. Wonderful class. Was founded by Anne-Marie Colbin. And she's written quite a few books that are out there. Food and Healing is one of them. But I took a class from Peter Burley, who's another cookbook author, great guy, and love his food. And he was saying that a lot of people who are gluten intolerant can actually tolerate sourdough bread, like you said, because it's been fermented, and somehow that it just deactivates whatever's in there.
There's that, and I think the key is that it's an organic, natural culture, opposed to just sourdough, like you go to the store and find the white sourdough. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, people don't understand. It's not the same. It's like pickles are not pickles. It's like fermented pickles are not the same. They don't use vinegar to ferment like the refrigerated pickles, you know what I mean? Like they're the refrigerated sauerkraut. It's not the same as like the vinegar pickles, although they taste very much alike, but very different in what they do.
Right, exactly. That's a big thing when we're talking fermented. And Maria has, again, these recipes broken down in these different categories. I thought it was so interesting what you were saying, even with the olive oils and the flaxseed oils and things like that, because I think that's something that people aren't familiar with. They're maybe getting more used to hearing that you shouldn't be using like the corn oils and the canola oils and some of these. They're not used to hearing, okay, the olive oils need to be refrigerated, or you shouldn't be cooking with a lot of these things. So this is, I think, really great information to bring out. I've got another caller on the line here, and I'd like to bring them on because I'm guessing there's probably a question here. This caller's coming in from 714 area code.
Can I just make one clarification?
Sure.
Sorry. The olive oil you don't need to refrigerate. You can keep it'll stay stable on a shelf for 2 years. Sorry, just wanted to clear that up.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. That's thank you for that. Because these are important things that I use olive oil, but I use a extra virgin cold pressed, and I know there's some big differences there from just your basic olive oil. It's kind of the difference between something that's organic and something that's non-organic in a way. Okay, caller 714, you're on the air.
And it was like 4 hours. Then they found out.
I can just barely hear you, so.
I'm not sure if she knows that she's on the line.
I've got a caller. You're from 714 area code. You're on the air. Are you with us? Hello? Okay. I'm not sure they're responding. I'm going to put them back on hold. I've got somebody on the air that's from not on the air at the moment, but from 714 area code that called into our caller queue. If you have a question that you're wanting to ask Maria, you can just press 1 on your phone, and that will pop the little question box up, and that will let me know that you have a question for her, okay? We tried to bring you on the air, but couldn't hear you there. So, but Maria, you're like I said, your website is amazing, and I encourage people to sign up because you've just got this wealth of information here. And again, Maria's website is mariarickert.com, and that's mariarickerthong.com. I've got it right at the bottom of the show description for Maria today, so that you can look at it that way. And one of the great things that Maria does is she's working with people kind of, if I'm understanding correctly from your website, Maria, no matter where you are or where they are, you can work with them because you can work via phone or Skype or in person. Yeah. And you do a wonderful 1-hour free consultation for people on improving their health. And when you go into her website, she's got just click on free consultation, and she's got a whole calendar set up. You just go in, you pick the day. It will show the times that she has available for you, and you just pick your time, and then it's scheduled. And, what an amazing gift of time, because with everything and raising kids, to sit and give free consultations is absolutely amazing. And so once somebody comes in, I'd love for you to talk about that, because we have just a few minutes here left, maybe 10 minutes left on the air to work with here, 10, 15 minutes. And maybe share with them what you do in that consultation, and then if they go ahead and they go on to taking advantage, say, of your programs, you've got a 6-month personal program and a Recover Your Health group program and things like that, and just kind of share with them how you work with them.
Yeah, okay. So in the free consultation, what I do is I send people a form. It's a health history form. You fill it out, and it's got things in there, let's see, like what are your major health concerns, obviously, but also what is your parents' health like? That can affect us a lot, and that's what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about myself and the adrenal fatigue and then the heavy metal toxicity. That actually gets passed from the mother to the child. Gut dysbiosis also gets passed from the mother to the child. So what you'll see a lot of times in kids with autism, ADHD, allergies, asthma, whatever, there's been some kind of autoimmune in the family further up the tree, like in the mother's line or in the father or grandparents or whatever. So it's good to know what the parents' health history is too. I look at that. I also look at ethnicity, because sometimes that can affect things. I want to know what your blood type is, because certain blood types do better with certain kinds of diets and certain kinds of foods. So we'll want to look at that. Mostly I want to look at what your diet was like as a child, what your diet is like now, how much do you cook for yourself? If you don't cook, where do you get your food from? Also want to know, say for a child, has there been any kind of developmental delays? If you're a woman, I want to know if you have any kind of hormonal problems. And so what I do in my 6-month program is I look at a whole package of, that's what I'm saying, all these people are related, although most people believe that they are not. So even though there's an autism epidemic of 1 in 88, there's also an ADHD epidemic of 1 in 10 kids. There's an allergy epidemic to, I think it's 1 in 3 kids have an allergy to something, or at least chronic rhinitis. Every kid has chronic ear infections these days. There's an asthma epidemic. I think it's like 1 in 6 right now, or at least for African American children. There is a depression epidemic, and that's all related too. And so I want to take a look at those things and see what the history is with that. And so in my program is I look at the adrenals, I look at thyroid, I look at gut dysbiosis, I look at immune dysregulation, I look at inflammation, I look at implementing a gut healing diet, and I look at detoxifying yourself through diet and also detoxifying your life and your home. And I feel it's like a really comprehensive package that most people just don't get the attention to all those kind of areas when they go to, pretty much any health provider. If you're not going to go with me, I would say a great start is also a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or a biomedical doctor. But I will say that what I do is actually work in conjunction with my naturopath, and he actually sends me clients, refers them over to me, because the diet piece, the lifestyle piece, the stress, and that can be a huge component of sort of like what we were talking about with the primary food, that can have a huge effect on your health, more than the food itself can. So it really helps to have somebody there to hold your hand and to walk you through this. And so I always say I'm sort of like the personal trainer for your health.
And when Maria's talking about some of those primary things and how they have an impact, for example, you could have a very, very good diet, but if you're highly, highly stressed for whatever reason, because a relationship isn't working out, or you're been on welfare and you're about ready to run out of that support or money and you haven't been able to find work or something that's very high stress like that, that stress is dropping so much acid into the stomach
Mm-hmm.
and creating such an acidity level that even with a good diet, sometimes that's going to be affected, and that's why you want to look at having that comprehensive piece.
Right, and that's what I do. It's really fun, and it's so much fun to see the changes, the positive changes that come around in kids or adults. I work with both. What I like to do, especially if there's a child that's involved, is actually work with the mother as well. Hopefully with the whole family, but at least with the mother, because I guarantee you the mother's got some kind of problems too, because she passed it on to the child and didn't know it. I remember going to the pediatrician that we were seeing at the time, and I wanted to be open and fair with her and share with the fact that we were seeing a naturopath. And she thinks it's all quackery. And she looked at the heavy metal test results, and she's like, "You don't live in a garbage dump." Like, she just doesn't get it. She really doesn't get it. You can go to the Environmental Working Group. You can see the report. It's a landmark report that they published back in 2005. So it's been around for quite a while. It's called The Body Burden, the Pollution in Newborns. And it talks about how our babies are being born pre-polluted with over 287 different kind of chemicals in them, carcinogens and heavy metals and pesticides and phthalates and things like that. And a baby on average has over 200 of them. And for her not to understand that, it's just so frustrating. So it's like you said, it's nice to have somebody that really takes a comprehensive look. So that's what I do.
Perfect. And there's just so much you're offering, and I really want to emphasize again, as opposed to just all of a sudden crash diet, eliminate everything in the middle of the holidays, probably really not a good idea to do. Think moderation, think bringing some of your own food options, think going for the environment and the socialization as opposed to the food. And, if you feel like you can't resist, it takes time to shift those taste buds. It takes time to shift it over. It's not like a bam, overnight, tomorrow, all of a sudden you're healed and well and you're not going to ever crave sugar or anything again.
Right.
But over time what this does is it does help you gain control of those, and there are miracles that can be worked through diet. Maria is an excellent person because kind of like I am on the spiritual side where I incorporate all of these different fields and practices in to help narrow in to help somebody make the changes in their life. She does the same thing with diet in bringing all these different dietary plans and ways of thinking and with the blood type and the cultures and all these different things. So these are huge. I encourage you to take advantage of this consultation she has. Check out the programs that she has to offer. Really some incredible work that she has going on here. And as she says, it's about looking at the family and not just the individual. And sometimes you don't have access to that. I know people that are adopted and they don't have access to that information, but you can still get in there and work on yourself. And when you do, it plays into how you are with people. It plays into, I'm amazed with food, when you start clearing your body out and you get rid of these toxins, what you have going on is it will actually impact you in a way where you're getting that stronger mental clarity, you're getting your energy, you're not feeling depressed, and as these things come around, your confidence will actually raise, and that will help you relate better to people. So it's all a big interrelated piece in there. And again, check out her website for those recipes. She's got some amazing things there. Subscribe to her blog, and I think we got pretty much your contact information in here a few times. And I just really want to thank you, Maria, for coming on the show tonight, sharing with us, how we survived this time and how we kind of work through things and bringing to our awareness how evident these things are, because we really didn't, I think, as a culture and a society until recently, and especially with your work, realize how prevalent some of these things are. I didn't realize. I mean, I knew they were very, very increasing, with people, but did not realize to the extent that you brought it out. And I know it's been a long night for you, and it's very early in the morning there. So I so very much appreciate you taking the time to be here with me on Activating Compassion in the midnight
You're welcome.
hour.
It's been great being on here. Thank you so much. I will say one of the best things you can do is just eat vegetables, fresh vegetables. I'm not talking canned stuff or packaged stuff, fresh vegetables, and that will definitely help. And then the other thing, you can find me on Facebook at Maria Rickert Hong Nutritional Healing. You can find me on Pinterest. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Google+. So if you're any of those places, you can follow me there as well.
She's everywhere.
Yeah.
I have to say my favorites are like the dark leafy greens that are really focused on detoxifying. That's my new favorite. So
right. Right. And in my program I actually talk about why it's detoxifying, and it's one of the things that most people just don't understand. So it's actually very interesting. So
absolutely.
So thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll be able to connect again, because I kind of hoped to connect with you when I had done the Compassion Tour.
Right.
I just didn't quite make it to Connecticut.
Yeah.
Ours weren't quite coinciding, but maybe on the 2013 tour.
Yeah. Like I said, Glenn Colello over at Catch a Healthy Habit would be a great place for you to possibly go, because he has speakers come in.
I've talked with him, but he wants people in there that are strictly vegan. So my work was not quite the right combination for him.
Okay.
I think there are some opportunities around that area, and I would certainly be open if I was doing a retreat or something in that area. I'd be looking at maybe using him or something like that, because I think he's something happening there.
Well, good. I'm glad you talked to him, though. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. And again, just we appreciate you here, and mariarickert.com is her website, and that's going to get you started. And like she mentioned, she's connected everywhere if you just look up her name. So thank you so much, Maria. I'm going to put you back on hold while I close out the rest of the show here.
Okay. Do you want me to stick around after the call, or?
It's up to you, but I'm going to put you on mute.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
And so, as you know, again, my 2012 Compassion Tour is over, but I am working on that 2013 tour, as I mentioned. And if you'd like to find out more about the work I'm doing with Compassion, you can connect with me at facebook.com/Activating Compassion. Also, if you just look up my name, Jessie Ann Nichols George, I've got a personal Facebook page there as well. I've got a blog which is located at getyourblisson.tumblr.com, and then my website, which is bliss.freetzy.com. And all of those connections, as well as my email ways that you can contact me, are all at the bottom of the show description at the shows here. My books are available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com for paperback. You can get them through Smashwords as an ebook, which includes Kindle and PDF versions, and that would be Activating Compassion and Activating Compassion, the workbook. Again, as a listener on this show, whether you're listening live or in the archives, you are eligible to take advantage of my unlimited email coaching at 90% off. So it's a huge discount, and I really want to work with people to make it affordable right now while I can. I can't always guarantee that the discounts are going to be there. You can also take advantage of the quantum energy work that I do at 75% off, and that's going to also include unlimited email coaching in that. And then the quantum energy work includes 1 hour of completely focusing on your issues, on your concerns, on helping you make those breakthroughs. And we do have a couple of guests from back on my birthday show that won a free month of email coaching, and we've just started work with them, and it's very exciting because there's always these big pieces that we start with, but it's very customized work because I'm taking in consideration things like numerology and astrology and taking in factors as far as where you're living and the people you're interacting with and the feng shui and relationships and all these different pieces, because they all play a part into it. And so that's very, very valuable work. Don't forget, we've got other shows here on Main Street Universe. Daniel's on Wednesdays. A lot of times Janice is there co-hosting with him. Evan is on with Zariana. And other than that, we've got some things that are happening sporadically. We get Kevin Baird on off and on with his Horizon Oracle journeys. We've got Daniel, which jumps on like he did tonight, playing music or all of a sudden throwing up a show doing readings. So it's good to also go on the Main Street Universe Facebook side as well, so that you can kind of stay up and get those little emails when we have those things going on with the shows. Now, next week, I am going to be having guest Bob Burns on, and he's going to be talking about relationships, beliefs, and behaviors. And Bob is very, very interesting. He's going to be an absolutely fascinating person to listen to. He's got a wealth of experience in different areas. He's authored books. He's doing workshops. And one of his big focuses is relationships and how we pick relationships. He has a background in neuro-linguistic programming, as well as subliminal kind of CD work and things like that. So he's got tons of things. It's going to be absolutely amazing work, and I'm going to be keep adding guests in. And Daniel says, right now some of our things happen instant, just kind of out of the blue, but we're going to be having some more focused things as well. So it's kind of fun, I think, when we throw something in out of the blue. Unexpected. That's really fun. And Evan Paz, he's moving to India, so we're not sure exactly what's going to happen. We'd love to see him just keep working from there, but we'll have to see how that goes for him. And I see Daniel's typing in some more information from me, or not from me, but for me in there. So definitely tune in next week. Again, if you've enjoyed the show here, make sure that you're sharing it with friends, family, Facebook connections, all of those things, and let them know about the show. They can access it through the same link that you came in tonight. And I just want to say, this is Jessie Ann Nichols George. I really want to thank you for being on the show here tonight, listening, coming in, paying attention to Maria, and supporting our guests here and the work that they're doing. I really look forward to seeing you back here next week as we delve more into activating compassion. And don't forget, share the show. Let others know about what's going on. I'm going to be leaving you tonight with a song by Shemshai, which is called Yearning For, also known as Over and Over. And let me see. Yep, she was great. He will be here in a month. Awesome. So, yeah, definitely just stay tuned with us on the network here. We've got lots of great things happening. And I just want to say thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you next week right here on Activating Compassion in the midnight hour. I really hope you enjoyed the rest of your weekend and have an absolutely amazing week. And again, look for the shows coming up. We've got Ascension show that's going to be coming up. Just to remind you, that's going to be on the 21st, and then we've got Bob Burns next week. So lots of good stuff to tune into. Take care. Have a great weekend.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind, and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune, caught in a balance of sun and moon. Oh, deep inside, the light within, shining to show you it's here to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity. And we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart is still yearning for. Yearning for. Within love before the divine, and we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man, and we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside, and we are in tune with the tune of life in the circle and love in bloom. Your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart is still yearning for. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit.